A little over a year ago, we did what we had set out to do, what we'd been planning for the entire year before. We sold everything, we got packed up, and we began the life of our dreams as a full-time retired nomad couple. Well, then reality hit.
We were a year into our nomad retirement, and we were about to embark on a 47-day cruise back from Asia to the United States. And we had a plan to present a video every day of that cruise. It was a 47-day health challenge. Well, we only lasted 3 days of our 47 days of that challenge. And we found out that we made a lot of slow travel retirement mistakes along the way. And today we're here to make 3 confessions about why we stopped posting for the last 3 months. Well, as I said, it started with this 47-day cruise plan that sort of ended, at least ended with 3 days of posting. Like when we got on the cruise, we were so excited. We saw what the itinerary looked like every day, and the activities on the Cunard Queen Mary 2 were fantastic. Every day we had enrichment presentations that we were excited about going to. The dining was fabulous. There was dancing, almost 4 hours of dancing every night. There were fitness activities,
yeah, the fitness,
dance classes. It was crazy how many great things. Basically, we were promising that we were going to do 2 hours of our own exercise, and we were promising that we were going to record and edit and upload
dance.
and dance and everything. I mean, it was just, there's only so many hours a day, and we made the mistake of overcommitting. We could record every day. We could get that in, but the internet was just not reliable and not fast enough. So it was just taking way too long to edit and upload the videos. And so the technology just didn't allow us to do everything that we really wanted to do. And by the way, I know that there are people out there with cruise YouTube channels. If you're one of those people watching and you figured out how you can make videos every day when you're on a cruise, please drop us some comments and some hints, because we'd love to know. We surely couldn't figure it out. In any event, the tech stopped us. We made it, as I said, we made the first 3 days we posted, but after that, not so much. I was able to record about a week's worth of activities. Deb was better. She made it for about 2 weeks before we gave up. It wasn't just the technology that was the problem. We also ran into some health trouble. Maybe Deb, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was funny because for about the first 6 months of our travels, we had some health issues, but nothing that couldn't be handled relatively simply. The second 6 months was a completely different story. It was like almost as soon as we started, we both got COVID. And Greg's was really mild and mine was terrible. I had it pretty intensely for about a month, and then followed by 3 months of long COVID. And anybody who's had long COVID knows that you may not be super sick, but you're exhausted and sleeping all the time. So it basically ended up being 4 months that I really couldn't do much of anything. As I said, Greg was okay during that time, but when we started this big 47-day cruise, we actually got, both of us, COVID a second time. On top of that, just as Greg was coming to the end of his second round of COVID, then he started to have back problems, and it was pretty debilitating. But even if we had been the most organized people in the world, having the problem of the health issues would have made it pretty much impossible to stick to the challenge, even if everything else had been okay.
Yeah, but don't sell yourself short.
I had a win.
Yeah,
I had
right.
a little win.
Right.
Yeah, that even though I didn't follow up with the videoing and the posting and that kind of thing, I did actually meet my goal, which I talked about, I think, in the first video, which was that one of my goals, I wanted to lose somewhere between 7 and 12 pounds before the end of this 47-day cruise. And I did. I lost 8 pounds and I haven't gained it back. So that was
Bravo.
something.
Yeah. A lesson to be learned from this, and that really was, you can't overcommit. That was our problem. There wasn't enough time, and we came to the realization that, hey, we want to really enjoy our life because it's an incredibly great lifestyle. But But you just got to know. Part of that is
Find the balance.
recognizing what's really important. And the truth was, it wasn't making videos on that cruise. So that was kind of our lesson learned from confession number one, which was we overcommitted our time. With that in mind, we got off the ship 47 days later, and we were in the United States, and we had been thinking about, as we got towards the end, we've been thinking about, okay, now we're going to get back into the swing of things. We got a 5-week stay in the United States. Well, this leads us to what our second confession is, and that is you can't underestimate the amount of friction you get in terms of accomplishing anything when you come back home to the United States, but you're coming back home as a nomad. Even in our case, we had family where we can stay, a place to store things, but everything becomes a challenge for a nomad travel challenge in the United States that didn't exist before. Well, let's talk about just one example, and lawyers call this the parade of horribles. But one example of one thing that went wrong, and then after that one thing went wrong, it was 2 weeks.
A comedy of disaster.
So go ahead, I'll let you take over from here.
Okay, well, it all started when we were coming to the end of the stay, and we had about a week that we had to get back from where we were visiting family back to New York to take our cruise back to Europe. And so Greg had gotten a rent-a-car. We went there to pick up our car, and they didn't have a car for us. They did run Greg's identification, his passport, everything checked out, everything was fine. But there's not much we could do when we don't have a car. So in the end, they sent us over to a different branch, which was about a half-hour drive away. And they told us that, yes, indeed, they did have a car for us, and we would definitely be able to go and get it. It wasn't going to go to anybody else. And by the way, in the time that it took us to get to the point where we had another car to go and pick up, we could have already been at our next destination, which was only an hour and a half away. This was taking 2 hours just for this.
Yeah, so let's just let everybody see how crazy this is going to get. We were renting a car because we were going to drive from Toledo through Cleveland, have a stop in Geneva, Ohio. It's about an hour east of Cleveland, northeast of Cleveland. And then we were going to go to New York. So it was about a 4 or 5 day trip to see family on our way back to New York to get to our cruise. And the idea was, let's rent a car, drive through, and everything should be pretty easy. So this was the first problem. The first stop was going to be 2 hours from Toledo and Cleveland. Well, it took us how many hours to resolve the first day while we were in Toledo?
Right. So, yeah, good. Thank you for filling all that in, because sometimes I leave things out. All right. We get to the second destination. They had the car for us as promised. But unlike the first rent-a-car, when they ran his passport, they said, no, I'm sorry, our machine doesn't recognize this as a passport. You don't get the car.
It was the Toledo airport. And they didn't recognize, right, they wouldn't recognize actually a driver's license.
It was the driver's license? Okay, right. So it wasn't the passport, but it was the same driver's license that you showed at the previous rent-a-car, and they accepted it.
Right. So the first rental car, this was Avis, by the way. We need to give a big shout out to never use Avis after this experience.
Now we've really gone through this rigmarole. We're way out at the Toledo airport, and we still cannot get a car. So it was getting very late in the day.
And we had reservations for a hotel in Cleveland that night.
And we had absolutely no way to get there. So in the end, as we were driving back to my brother's place, trying to understand what we're going to do, we passed an Enterprise, and we thought, you know what, let's just stop in. We've always had good luck with Enterprise in the past. And we get there, and they jumped through some hoops on our behalf. They were wonderful. They were able to get us a car. The only problem was we had to drop it off in Cleveland. We could not use it to get all the way to New York. So we took them up on it, and we drove out a little bit later that evening. And we were very happy to do it, and it solved one little problem, but it didn't solve the problem of what are we going to do to get the rest of the way there.
The reason we had to drop it off in Cleveland is because the car was committed. They gave us the car. It had already been committed to Cleveland. They just happened to have it. But Cleveland didn't have any more cars. So when we got there, we dropped off the rental car, but we couldn't rent another car.
Yeah, there was some big event going on that on those days. I don't remember what it was exactly, maybe a huge sports event, but all the cars, it wasn't just Enterprise, everything in Cleveland, all the cars were rented. So we were stuck, which was, I mean, it was okay for the few days because we were there for, I think, 4 days. So we didn't need one right away. But the problem was when it was time to leave, we still couldn't get a rental car on the way to New York. Just nobody had them. So at that point, we had no choice but to fly to New York, which we always try to avoid, but we were stuck. So we got tickets and we thought, well, at least this is nice, short and sweet. We're going to be there in an hour and a half. We got to the airport at, I think, 12:30 in the afternoon that we were going to be flying. We didn't leave until 8:30 that night. Again, it was just a comedy of errors. Either it was technological problems with the air with the plane, which of course is not really a comedy at all, but that was part of the problem. The other part of the problem was the weather in New York was very, very bad and they couldn't leave. So we didn't leave until 8:30 at night, and we didn't get there in the hour and a half that a flight to New York normally takes from Cleveland. We got somewhere close to, we were landing in Newark, but basically New York, and we were over Newark and circling around and around and around. And finally, they realized that this holding pattern wasn't going to end anytime soon. There were too many planes in the air. The weather was too bad. So they had to take another route and a detour and drop us all off in Washington, D.C. And by now
At 2 a.m.
That's right. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. They had no other options for us. So finally, we went and got a hotel. We get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we get a text saying, oh, we have a plane for you early this morning. Well, at that point, we couldn't possibly get to catch our flight. So we had a hotel, which we got all of, 3 hours of sleep in before we were booted back out, took a bus. It was a pretty late afternoon bus. We got there at about 10:30 in the evening. So, well, now it looks good in that we were a day late, but we made it to New York. We get to our hotel, and the hotel didn't have our reservation because the concierge who set up the reservation, the hotel that they made the reservation for, was an hour out, at least, way out from Long Island, not the one that was right next to New York City, which was a reservation that we couldn't possibly use. So it was literally, and even after that got rectified.
And that was 11 o'clock at night, something like at midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, they ended up letting us stay that night at the hotel, which we thought great, until they said, but you have 2-night reservation. We're not giving you this hotel tomorrow night. You have to go make other arrangements. So we had to, it was literally like right up until we got on the cruise. We weren't sure if we were going to get on the cruise. There were so many obstacles that we had to go through. And the obstacles were, in addition to being really exhausting and lots of hoops to jump through, they were very costly.
After all was said and done, with the extra bus tickets, extra hotel rooms, a lot of extra ride shares since we didn't have the car rental, extra meals, it's just all kinds of additions. And in the end, we spent $975 more than we had budgeted, which, as Deb said, was almost twice what we expected to spend. So the lesson to all of this is do not underestimate the transition tax of coming home. Everything is harder. Everything becomes more expensive than what you're used to. So, like I said, just be ready for that. We really were not. This is the end of our 5 weeks. We're getting ready to get on our cruise. And by the end of that cruise, it brought us to another realization about yet one more slow travel mistake we'd been making.
The confession number 3 is that, we kept talking about slow travel, but we didn't always do it. And sometimes we would say, well, for example, we want to see Switzerland. It's a beautiful country, but we can't really afford it. So let's just do a day here and a couple days there. And every time we did something like this, what happened is it was more vacation style travel. And vacation style travel works absolutely fine if you're on vacation, if you're gone for a long weekend, if you're somewhere for a week, if you're there for 2 weeks, then you can come back and sleep off your exhaustion. But it's a whole other story when you keep interspersing those, thinking you'll get over it and it's going to be fine. And what ends up happening is it doesn't matter if you're in Switzerland or some other beautiful country. The fact is, you get really tired every day or every other day, packing your stuff up, getting out the hotel, piling things onto a train, getting them up on the shelves, getting them down from the shelves, getting back off the train, jumping into an Uber, getting to your destination, knowing, oh, well, I can't really unpack my suitcases because what's the point? I'm going to have to spend an hour or two packing them back up again. And to live that kind of existence, besides the fact that it is costly, you're going to have many more expenses like that, but it's also, it will really knock you out. And in addition to that, we discovered another problem doing that kind of travel that really underscored the importance of not doing fast travel and absolutely sticking to your convictions about doing slow travel. And that was that on our short cruise, the 7-day cruise from New York back to the UK, we got to Southampton. Well, the day before that we were going to be disembarking, Greg got one of his really bad backache and he had to pretty much cancel everything. We had a private dance class the day before disembarkation. We had to cancel it because forget about dancing. Greg couldn't walk. He was really, really stuck, and he was doing all the things that you do in an extreme situation. He was, trying to lie and rest in bed. He was taking 2 naproxen, and if you take 2 naproxen and then followed by another naproxen and another naproxen, and nothing is getting better, as what Whoopi Goldberg says in Ghost, you're in danger, dear. It was really bad. And we were about to come into the worst possible day, where we had to get our stuff packed, and you're out the door at 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. You have to be out. You have to be out with your suitcases. You have to be lugging them over their beautiful, comfortable padded carpet, which feels a lot less beautiful and comfortable when you can't even walk. And somehow we had to get out of the cruise. We had to drag our stuff to the Uber station, get our Uber to the train, get our train tickets, and go to, no, we didn't. We got a bus at that point, actually, but whatever, have to go through the same process. Our bus out to London, from London, get another Uber to get over to Wimbledon because we couldn't get a bus directly to Wimbledon where we were staying. Now there, we stayed for 2 days. Then we had to go to North London to do a dog sit for another 2 days. Then we had to go west to take 2 days off on our way to another dog sit. And why we have to have 2 days in between dog sits is because transportation, anything can go wrong. The last thing you want to do is leave one dog sit one night, stay in a hotel, and then be up the next morning and say, okay, well, I've got 8 hours to get to the next place, but it's fine, I've got all day. If you have a problem with your transportation and you can't get to the next dog sit you are in, or any animal sit, of course, you're in big trouble. So we had 3 in a row, 2 days per place. And on top of that, Greg had to deal with that, not even being able to walk 10 steps. So as tiring as it gets, just to be in great shape, imagine what this is like when you've got a problem. So maybe we can't always do everything long term. It's unrealistic to think you're always going to be able to do a month in every single place. You might need some, buffer zone of a day or two in between for traveling. Understandable. But what we really realized we just can't do is try to deliberately plan those kinds of short trips. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the confession here is that, we learned, that we're not on vacation. This is the slow travel lifestyle is wonderful. It's also mandatory. No, you just can't continuously doing fast travel. life catches up with you if that's what you try to do. And we were trying to do it. So we learned the hard way that we got to slow down. And we're now about 3 weeks into a 5-week dog sit, and I will tell you, I mean, I'm still a little stiff, but it's only been in the last couple of days where I start almost getting back to normal. You really you just got to have the downtime to take care of yourself, because if you're not, if you're living a sightseeing fast travel lifestyle, it's fun until it's not, and it's not when you've neglected yourself.
We hope that these stories are resonating with you and are helpful. If you are getting value from this, we hope you will like and subscribe to our channel, because that really does enable us to keep moving forward and keep getting out better content as much as possible.
Yeah, and if you're interested in more about what our reality is and how we've been facing it in our life as full-time slow traveling retirees, check this video right here.